Welcome back to another sci-fi episode where psychology and finances intersect. And today we're going to be examining how teens think, feel, and behave with money. It is graduation season, it's early May, and if you're thinking of what can I gift a high school graduate with or a college graduate with, I would encourage you to gift them with knowledge. Now, no Army endorsement implied. I'm not saying you have to give this book or a book that I've already reviewed here on the podcast, but I would encourage you to find something, there are several to choose from, that would speak into the life of that graduate that you love and that you cherish and that you want to succeed in life. So the book that I happen to be reviewing today, but again, no urge or encouragement that this has to be the book that you purchase, I just found this book quite effective for my own teenager and also for myself. I actually listened to the audio version before I started taking my daughter, my teenager, on day dates over coffee to talk about the different chapters. And some not so formal. Most of the discussions are informal. But the name of the book is Personal Finance for Teens 101, The Ultimate Guide to Budget, Save, and Invest for Early Financial Independence. What parent, what aunt, what uncle, what grandparent wouldn't want this for their beloved minor in mind, right? And even for those adult or young adults that are no longer minors, go back and listen to the review on the book, The Talk About Money. That's for older, younger adults, but it's also good for possibly some high school graduates who may already have a good underpinning of financial knowledge. But you will get to assess that and see which book is going to be best for your teen or your young adult. So let me go ahead and preface what this book does not provide. So just a disclaimer and a cautionary note. I know that we want the best for our kids, our grandkids, our nieces, our nephews, even godchildren, or any children that come to mind that you just want to do well in life. This book will not provide everything that your teen desperately needs. It will provide good education and it will provide a good foundation. But if every person who received a book actually read the entire book, digested the information in the book, and applied 100% of what they read in the book, I would be out of a job. You would be out of a job as a parent, right? As a guardian or anybody who is there to speak wisdom into their life. It does not come with modeling. It does not come with discussion. So if you're purchasing this book for that graduate, or you're purchasing this book because you just want some level of education or bullet points that will help you with those discussions or the modeling, then by all means, start looking through it. Buy yourself a copy, highlight it, look for things, look for those teachable moments that you can slip those ideas into. Because listen, they're going to have questions about this. They're not going to be able to fully read and understand. So open it up to discussion. And if you're not the person who might be the right candidate for that, it's okay to find them a money mentor. It could be someone in your community who you know is really good with money and understands it and could have these conversations with them. We tend to do that with other topics as well, things that come up and like, wow, I really don't know much about that, but I know somebody who does. But here's what I would encourage parents, guardians, anybody who's listening to this as well. If you were to read this book yourself as an adult, it is really good. It's not just for teens, but it's for adults too. And it's written in such a way to where adults can really take the information and digest it. And I'm looking at our PAO rep right now, and I'm showing him just how thin the book is. It's not thick. it's one of those books where you get it like, wow, I could actually go through this. I won't just put it away because it just looks too overwhelming. Here's the other thing that I will caution folks on as well is if you ever want someone in your life that you love to do something, you must also model that something. So if you're giving this book to a teen or to a grad or to someone else in your life because you want them to do financially well, maybe it's also something that you need to model. If we want our children to eat well, we must eat well. If we want our children to speak well, we must speak well. If we want our children to plan well, we plan well. If we want our children to become financially independent, we must also model financial independence. And even if you haven't attained independence, then modeling for them and showing for them how you are striving for that financial independence. It's a great way to get buy-in because we know the developmental stages of a teenager, they're quite volatile. One day they'll want to talk with you about it, and the next day they'll completely shut you down and say they're not interested, and a month later they have questions. So we have to be gracious and ready to talk about this with teens as we move forward. So let me dive into the book. I did say this is going to be a book review, not an Olivia parenting review. Okay. So first, at the outset, in his introduction, I like how he likes to move past stereotypes and get teenagers thinking about money differently. And here's a quote from his book. Did you know that over half of teenagers like you already have savings? Yes, that's right. Despite the stereotype of teens being impulsive spenders, many are providing this wrong by diligently saving money. It is true. There are teenagers out there that are saving. They have a goal. Even if it's a small goal, they are doing that. I can attest to that in my own home. Now, my husband and I would love for them to get to an overarching savings goal where it's a larger amount of money, but they have to find resources and income that would help support that as well. So a lot of times it's about parents being patient, right? And so, by the way, the author of this book is Freddie Grant. He's relatable. He's likable. He's a little funny. He provides quotes in the book that would resonate with these youngsters. Here's another quote. Managing personal finance is not only about money, but also understanding how every financial decision you make impacts your life, end quote. And this, again, you can see already how this is going to be a good book, not just for teens, but for adults as well. So there are going to be some toes that are stepped on if you're listening to this as an adult and you're like, wow, I didn't even know that. That's okay, because truth be told, there were a couple things when I was listening, I was thinking, wow, that's a good point. And I had never thought of it that way before, or I didn't know that that app existed, or I didn't know that this method existed. So it was eye-opening for me as well. So his first chapter is Get Your Money-Making Mind Right. And the reason I love this so much is because as a licensed professional counselor, I have spent years assisting folks in challenging faulty beliefs. In my current role as an accredited financial counselor, I'm not providing clinical therapy, but I'm still helping people challenge their negative financial beliefs or their faulty financial core beliefs. And that is his very first chapter. Well done, Freddie Grant. Okay, so here's what he says. He gives an introduction to money mindset. And he asks, why does money mindset matter? And then he provides all these different examples of faulty beliefs when it comes to finances and how do they develop. I will be honest and say that I think my daughter and I had the best discussion on this introductory chapter. And it really opened her eyes, and I think it was the least boring of the chapters that we've discussed so far. And there's even a nice little assessment to assess their own money mindset. And I'll give you just a couple questions that he asks. What's your first instinct when you receive money, like an allowance or earnings from a job? Or how often do you worry about money? What is your reaction to the idea of creating a budget? How do you view wealthy people? Do you believe that you can improve your financial situation through your actions? And he just goes on. And I was thinking, wow, I bet he consulted a psychologist with this. It was really good. Okay, so he goes on to explain how money mindsets develop. And if you didn't know, and I've talked about this in different episodes, but he provides 4 bullet points. Family and home environment, right? That's why modeling is very important, parents. Cultural and societal influences, and parents, a lot of times we don't have control over that, but we can control how we choose to discuss and talk about those cultural and societal influences in our children's lives, their own personal experiences, and education and awareness. And the Army knows that. They know that by providing financial literacy training, I've provided a whole episode on that education and awareness is pivotal. I actually had a mom call recently whose child is joining the Army Guard, and she wanted her son to come in for financial counseling before he even went to training. And I congratulated her. If I could give her a gold star over the phone, I would. But I thanked her for taking the initiative to make an appointment for her son to make that happen. And also a gold star to the recruiter who told her how to reach the personal financial counselor here at Redstone Arsenal to make that happen, because this child does not yet have access to the installation. So the personal financial counselor can go meet him off the installation and provide him some education. Now, a lot of these recruits are going to get some level of financial education, but boy, when it's done one-on-one and there's not that pressure of what are people going to think about me if I actually pay attention to this and hang on every word and I'm not fooling around like everybody else, that goes places. Okay, so then he asks, do you have a positive or negative mindset? So here's how he defines a positive money mindset. When you have a belief that you actually deserve wealth, when you take responsibility for financial well-being, when you view money as a tool for good instead of fearing it, is what he's saying. A belief in abundance and practicing positive money mantras. And he goes further into that. And then he will show what a negative money mindset is. And I see so many folks chronically paralyzed by this one that he mentions first: chronic feelings of scarcity. And here's a quote right out of his book. If you often feel like you're always broke, regardless of your actual financial status, it may indicate a negative mindset. This scarcity mindset can persist even when your bank account says otherwise. End quote. And he goes into more negative money mindsets, believing stereotypes about wealth. And he goes on to elaborate, where folks who believe that wealthy people are evil. It's time to check that. There are folks who are wealthy who are wanting to impart the different education to folks so they too can create a lifestyle that they are also seeking. Another negative money mindset is viewing money as the root of all evil. Or another one, having guilt associated with spending. So you can see how a lot of this ties back to what he mentioned with how your money mindsets develop. And by the way, I have 3 separate episodes on challenging financial negative beliefs. I do that with another fellow therapist. And so for adults, that one would be a good one if some of these are resonating with you. So again, it goes back to how he says this comes from family and home environment, cultural and societal influences, personal experiences, and education and awareness. These kids need to have the opportunity to educate themselves fully on what true financial well-being looks like and feels like, normalizing that for them. And he talks about a growth versus a fixed money mindset. So that is that first chapter rolled into one, and I love the assessment that he provides. The second chapter is get that guap. And that's just a phrase that he says is all about earning your own money. And absolutely, we can encourage our kids to do that, whether in the beginning, if it's just chore money, and then encouraging them at some point to have a paid position. And maybe even if it's not at a restaurant or a brick and mortar, it could be some other things, which, by the way, before I forget, he provides, and on the very last pages, 101 teen side hustles. He gives so many options for them to think beyond what parents might be saying, what teachers might be saying, what peers might be saying. Here are so many ways that you could make money. And just to name a few, teaching music lessons, running errands for neighbors. Here's one that I think my 11-year-old would probably be really good at: makeup or beauty services. That girl really can apply makeup very well. She's gifted in that area. Not that I allow her to wear makeup, or at least full-on makeup at that age, just a little. But when I let her have fun with it, oh my goodness, it's just absolutely beautiful. Performing at events. My youngest also plays the violin. We've encouraged her to play at an outdoor mall and get some tips for it. Providing tech support. Wouldn't it be nice if you have a techie in your home and you told the neighborhood, hey, if you get stuck with something, just call my son or my daughter. They can come over and help you with it. But of course, within reason, you want to be cautious and make sure you know where your children are going, whose homes are they going into, maybe accompanying them until you know who these folks are. Home organization services, online fitness or wellness coaching. I've actually seen teens do that, and it's really good. So these are just so many examples that he provides. So he provides a quote from Chris Rock. He said, "Wealth is not about having a lot of money. It's about having a lot of options." And so again, just one of those wonderful things that he does to incorporate some quotes from folks that these kids might know and, get them excited about what they're saying too. Here's a quote: "Embarking on your journey to earn money isn't just about filling your wallet. It's about exploring opportunities, gaining independence, and understanding the value of hard work and smart decision making." I love that because we can emphasize that with our kids. Hey, what did you think about this paragraph? And ask them what their take is on just those couple sentences alone, because what that would actually reveal to you what their money mindset is. And do they have a negativistic view on money, or do they have a positive one? And then having those conversations that money does not have to be hard. Because if it really is just about filling your wallet, or excuse me, if it's not really just about filling your wallet, but exploring opportunities, gaining independence, and understanding the value of hard work and smart decision making, perhaps they could start looking at money differently, because they've already been given the freedom in a book that was written not by you, because we all know how parental advice can go over sometimes, but by somebody they don't know, that, wow, I could buy into this. It's not just about wealth. It's not about building wealth. It's about building financial well-being. And let me tell you something. He goes full on into the value of work. It's not just about building or earning money. It's about building character, skill development, preparation for adulthood, hands-on financial management, and gaining a sense of responsibility. And he also says, hey, put your school studies first. And I agree with that. I love that. And there's actually studies separate from the book that actually talk about how teenagers who put work before studies, even though they're making good money and they're saving and they're getting that first apartment, able to move out as quickly as possible, it's harming them in the long run, and they really don't have higher incomes. It's best to have these conversations with your children. And I love also that he talks about work and the world of work as not just being contained in a college education. Obviously, it's great. College education is great, but trades are also explored, and other entrepreneurial ventures and other modes of making money are explored as well. Now, here's something, parents. If you don't know how to walk your teen through their first job and filing their first income tax return, he tells them how to do it. So I like that. Okay, so then he goes further into his next chapter, turning ideas into enterprises. This is where he goes further into career exploration and helping them understand that the world of work is not just about how much money you make. It's about finding a job that you enjoy so it never feels like you're working another day in your life. So discovering your passion and how to discover your passion. He walks them through it. And I can't get enough of that. I mean, I actually dog-eared that so that I could go back and make sure that I cover that with my own teenager. So, and a business plan template. If they want to create their own business, whether babysitting or being that tech support in the neighborhood, how to build a business plan and how much money to ask for and what kind of contracts to create. So really good information there. Chapter 4 is all about the building blocks of banking. A lot of kids might think, oh, banking, that's the easy part. But I would venture to say that's not true because so many kids, if they don't get the right kind of account, they're paying their whole month's worth of chore money or income on overdraft fees. And then they're stuck and then they feel defeated. And that's not what we want to happen. We want them to feel motivated to continue doing more of what is going to work for them. Here's a quote by Sophia Amoruso. "Money looks better in the bank than on your feet." I thought that was perfect for a teenager. So he goes over Banking 101. Obviously the differences between a saving account, a checking account, and then choosing the right kind of account, minimal fees, digital features, how it's going to match your lifestyle. Do you want to do exclusively online? Do you want one that's brick and mortar where you can walk in from time to time? Me, I'm an outgoing person. I miss that. I miss walking into a bank and having a chat, but that's just my generation. It may not be theirs. And then also what features to look for in an actual teen account. And parents, this is so helpful. And I didn't know about this until we found in our own banking institution youth accounts. I never knew that existed until we did a little research. But there are some other things too that you should consider, and that's all here in the book. And there are even some recommended apps and things of that nature that you can look into and have a better conversation with your teenager. Chapter 5 is all about your budgeting blueprint. And he talks about budgeting basics, your first budget, how to create your budget. And he even goes into the weeds with calculating your income, identifying fixed and variable costs, setting up savings goals. And one of the things that I highlighted here that I thought was extremely helpful was tips to stick to a budget, because this is where I lose adults, is we'll create a spend plan and we'll create a financial action plan with goals and objectives. But that's all fine and good. They're excited about it. But then when there's a follow-up, no, I didn't even look at it again. So how you understand human behavior and actually get someone to stick to a budget, he's written that out for them. And first of all, that's making those goals realistic within that spend plan or that budget. And I talk about this till I'm red in the face. Hey, maybe we didn't make your budget realistic enough or comfortable enough, or it's something that is unachievable, or we got the numbers wrong. I put it on myself. I blame myself first, give them the ability to save face, and then go back and say, okay, so what other things can we apply? And then he even gives a budget challenge and helping them understand, hey, what are you even envisioning? What are you saving for? And he also talks about subordinate budgets. So you can create a weekly budget from that monthly budget, especially when it comes to food. And then also he talks about the importance of rewarding yourself and giving yourself a little allowance for splurging, is what he calls it. And here's another thing that I love about this chapter is he goes into a discussion, a long discussion about needs versus wants. That's another area where I also struggle, not just personally, but as I'm working with adults with spend planning. And what is a need versus a want? What are those opportunity costs? And how can I create a strategy from there that will help me understand those needs and wants? He outlines that here in this book and in this chapter on budgeting. So he also provides the different budgeting strategies. A lot of you through my episodes know about the zero-based budget, where you give every dollar a job. And so you neither have a deficit nor a surplus because you have accounted for every single dollar. But he also goes into old school envelope budgeting, which is a great throwback for these kids because a lot of them are only going to have cash. And so putting that cash in different envelopes and for them to be able to feel the money, to smell the money, to touch the money, hopefully not taste the money, and even hear the rustle of the money, to have them sensorily engaged with that money, that can help them build a good, healthy relationship with that cash. And it also helps build a foundation. Do I do better with cash or do I do better with digital spending? And maybe they do better with cash. And I have some adults too. Like I can't continue to do digital spending because it's just not there with me. It doesn't seem real. So they would never go up and just throw their phone on the cash register box and say, here, I'm done with the different spending apps that are out there. It's just dangerous for them. So he talks about those different methods. He also talks about the 50-30-20 method, where you allocate, and I'm quoting out of his book, allocate 50% of your income to essential expenses like housing, groceries, and transportation. Then 30% can be used for discretionary spending, such as dining out, hobbies, or entertainment. Finally, dedicating 20% to savings or paying off debts if they have any. 20% in savings. That is in line with the Talk About Money book that I reviewed earlier. So I like the 50-30-20 idea for teens because it is very understandable because they have a smaller amount to work with. But going over all three of these strategies, they might find that a combination works best or one or the other. So wonderful topic of discussion to have with your teenager. And I think the last thing that I highlighted in this section is actually tracking spending. A lot of folks forget to do that. And as I come to a close on this actual episode, and I'll continue the book review in the next one, adults don't even get this down. So what a gift to relay to teenagers. It's not just about a written method of visualizing where your money is coming from and where it's going in a spend plan or a budget, whatever you like to call it, but also creating a tracking method to go with it. And that's where I lose a lot of folks. They spend all this time and effort into creating this budget or spend plan, but then they don't track their money. So my encouragement to the parents out there, read this book, digest this book, highlight the book, have some points of interest that you can have conversations with your teenager. And again, if they reject the book or reject discussions, at least you have some bullet points tucked away to come back to time during those teachable moments. And you'll know when they are. A lot of parents ask, when are they? Where are those teachable moments? You usually know because you have those teachable moments with other topics. And if you don't have a good enough relationship with your children, where you never find those teachable moments, and maybe it's hard for you to have communication, it is not anything to be embarrassed about should you seek family counseling. This is an area that could possibly help you and your family find ways of communicating more effectively and opening the doors for these types of discussions. So I can't wait to give you the rest of this book review in the next episode. And if you have found this helpful, please be sure to review and rate this pod wherever you listen. Thank you so much.